welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today we have an on-air coaching episode for you with one of our Impact Partnership students, Martha Fry. Hello, my darling.
Hi, how are you?
Amazing. How are you?
I am good.
Cool. All right. So tell us quickly what your business is, what you do, and then we'll dive into some coaching.
So my business is coaching Christian women with weight loss, but it's very specific in that it's weight loss with God and really how to bring God into your whole weight loss journey. And so, yeah, that's kind of the coaching that I do.
Awesome. All right. How can I support you today?
So one of the things probably that I'm looking at is in this world of coaching, just the whole marketing piece, like how is social media changing, getting word out there, webinars, all that kind of stuff, like just how to kind of stay on the edge. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little behind, and just even marketing, attracting customers, all that kind of stuff.
So in terms of staying on the edge, I would subscribe to some marketing podcasts that give you stuff that's like, this is what's happening right now.
Are there any that you know and recommend? I mean, I love hers, but
So Neil Patel has a good one. So does Russell Brunson. They're just very like marketing specific. I'm not sure if Stu McLaren still has his Marketing Your Business.
Who was the last one? Stephen McLaren?
Stu McLaren.
Stu, okay.
Awesome dude. And then in terms of like trending, what's happening, there's two main things that I see. The first is like short form video. Obviously, like people's attention spans are just ridiculous.
Right.
And then this is just me personally of what I've experienced and what I've seen. Kind of just like a social media fatigue of not wanting to be on social. It's like, been there, done that. I want to get off. So again, like focus of email marketing, I think that'll always be a big thing. So getting people off of social onto emails. So like you can use short form video and that kind of thing
Right.
to get people onto your email list. And then the other thing is just human connection. It's going to be increasingly important as time goes on and as people are using ChatGPT, AI, and all that stuff. It's to really tell your story and be authentic and be vulnerable. And I've been sharing this since I've had a business of like just the importance of doing that.
Yeah.
But I see it just becoming even more relevant and even more important as people, as one, it's getting noisier as more people are online. So it's like you stand out through creating connection. And then just being authentic and not, so like one of the things that I have done this year is I'm like not on social and I don't listen to other people's podcasts and I don't, so like I don't have this like view of what other people are doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I literally just have this is what the Lord's telling me to create. And so I'll put that out there.
Right.
So yeah, it really is just being obedient and asking the Lord, hey, what's my content strategy? Like, what does this look like? What should I create? And that's been some of my most like emailed, messaged, commented episodes. It's not like when I'm teaching, here's my 3-step strategy to X, Y, and Z.
Right.
It's when I'm like crying out to God for something. And then he's like, you need to talk about this.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So don't let your message be diluted through listening to other people in your industry, the content that they're creating.
Right.
That would be the takeaway from that.
And I will say that's something, and I'm glad you said that because I don't listen to a lot of like weight loss podcasts and even if they're Christian, because I don't want to like, I don't want to hear their voice or be tempted to be like, oh, I need to, and I can kind of be like that at times, especially when they have a larger following. I can be a little bit more like, oh, maybe I need to change, maybe I need to, shift or something, so that's super encouraging.
Yeah.
And with your email campaign, I mean, like with email, what would you do you have like a strategy, or is it just kind of like, this is what I talk about on my podcast, I put that in my episodes, um, or what's kind of your email strategy?
So it's usually the podcast is what we'll email once a week. If the Lord has me write something else, that happens not often, maybe like every other month, that something's like really put on my heart to write, then that'll go out. And then if we have like we're an affiliate for somebody's launch or something like that, then that'll go out.
Well, that's pretty easy.
Yeah. Cause it honestly, like you could create things that are so complicated. I've been in the online business space for what, 12 years?
Mhm.
Long, I don't know, 13. A long time.
Fine.
Like a third of my not almost a third of my life. Um And I've seen all these strategies come where it's like you have to post every hour on the hour, like crazy stuff, or you have to email twice a day to your list. And it's just like crazy stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do what the Lord tells me to do. And a lot of times that looks like less, but with more intentionality behind it.
Yeah.
Um, Instead of bombarding people with a whole bunch of spam.
Right.
So it really does look like doing things differently.
Right. Oh, I love that idea. And then, so when you talk about human connection,
Mhm.
is that also like, you get on, um, how does that like, is that more you're like face to face with people in your coaching, or like even just, and like, what does that look like when you say, human connection?
It look like a bunch of different things. One, I like live events. So like bringing
Hmm.
people together in person off of online. That is so fun. So that's one thing. But the other thing, it doesn't have to be video. I think video is great and video serves a purpose and it's nice for people to see your face, and to see that you're like a real human. I think for you, you're so put together all the time. If you show up like messy without makeup and your hair in a messy bun, I think that'll create more connection because it's like, oh, she doesn't look perfect and flawless all the time. Because you always do. Every time I see you, I'm like, oh, you look so nice. I'm wearing the same thing I wore yesterday. Um,
Well, on my stories, I do post after my workouts, and I'm always like, "Oh, I mean, that is hair in a bun, sweat."
yes, you want to be like a hot, sweaty mess because people just want to know you're real, that you're not just like you're not always put together.
Right.
Um, And then the other part of it would be just telling stories that create connection. So
Mhm.
tell more stories
And
that
do you do that in your emails, in
everywhere,
your podcast, and so
everywhere.
somebody is
Yeah.
on social
Yeah.
media, all that stuff? Okay.
Everywhere. Um, and a lot of times the stories aren't going to be the things that are like you want to tell. Um, and a lot of times the stories that I tell might make me cry because I'm
Yeah.
but they're the things that are like that God really puts on my heart to share.
Right. Well, and I think, again, human connection,
Yeah.
connect with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't be a perfectly polished person.
So maybe I need to do like a Facebook Live right after I work out and not just in
Yeah,
stories?
there you go. And then just think of some stories where it's like God really taught you a lesson.
Yeah.
And then what's the lesson that you want to share with people? Because I
That's
think especially for you, you're in weight loss and it's like you've always been thin. So you want people to be able you've never been like 100 pounds
No,
overweight.
I have not. I have not. I have not. I
You
will.
have not. So, like, your people might be like, well, what does Martha have to teach me about losing weight? She's
Right.
never struggled with this issue. So, it's like, show people that you've struggled with other stuff or you've had
Right.
other things that you've dealt with, and that makes you
Right.
just more human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And I think there was a time where I started to live in fear because I was at the age where I was putting weight on and it couldn't come off, and you
Share
know,
that. Share,
all
like,
that
don't
kind
think
of
you have
stuff.
to be a weight loss coach that has always been perfect. You can
Yeah.
share that part of your
Okay.
journey, and you should.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. And so when you say, so that's good. I need to just brainstorm some real life stories because sometimes I think you're close to it, or they're your failures or, they're not the
Yeah.
shining moments. It's easy to overlook those and
But it
stuff.
doesn't have to be this huge giant story.
Yeah.
Like
That's
I told a
good.
story about just like me ministering to this homeless woman. And then when I pulled my Chanel wallet out of my purse, just like the, I guess, stupidity that I felt of like trying to hide the Chanel logo from her to be like, I don't need to have this ridiculously expensive wallet as I'm giving you money. Um, so yeah, like it was a small interaction in a day-to-day experience, but it was impactful for me and it taught me a lesson.
Right. And I read the story when you talked about it,
Yeah.
and it
And
was
it
all,
totally made me cry because it like God really convicted me in that moment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I need to brainstorm some of those. So when you say that you love doing live events, what are the live events that you love doing? What are some different live events that you do?
Ooh, I actually just created a podcast last week about events.
Well, I
So
haven't
that's
listened to it yet. I'm
perfect.
gonna have to go
I
listen to
know.
it.
Well, no, it didn't go out last
Oh,
week.
okay, okay.
It's in the queue.
I'm like, I
Um,
missed it.
so I love the impact partnership events, like the
Uh-huh.
small, intimate gatherings. That's some of my favorites. Also just like the retreat in France that we did. Um,
So you mean like live in-person events?
yes. Yes. And my whole thing that I love to do is like creating experiences in addition to doing like coaching and learning. So it's the thing that I hate is just like sitting in a conference room for hours.
Yeah,
I want it to be more hands-on. I want to create fun experiences, doing things differently, and learn, and then keeping them smaller so it can be more like hands-on.
mhm.
Um, those are some of my favorite things. So it's
That's
like
really,
when we're in Chicago, like going
yeah,
downtown, doing the boat ride, going up to the John Hancock building, like all of that was so fun. And then when the ladies were here in Orlando, like taking them to the farm and showing them like, but the lesson behind it of like, this is how you multiply the money you make from your online business.
right.
When we take them to Senegal next year, of like showing them the businesses that we have in Senegal,
Yeah,
and then also like just showing them, man, I just love showing people like my worlds. So like
yeah,
taking them to our city in France and showing them like, oh, this is where we used to live, and then taking them like to make macaroons and like really fun stuff. So it's mixing your business stuff with the pleasure instead of
right.
just business. So for me, that's what makes it so fun and it creates something that's really memorable for them. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
will say when I went on the one in Chicago that, I felt like, we did take some time. That's where we talked about podcasts and launching our podcast but just being live interaction and it not being on Zoom and you could get up and go get a cup of coffee and ask questions and then just doing live together did make it really easy. I mean, it just seemed like it really went exponential, you
Yeah.
know?
That's when the magic happens. Like we can do a lot on Zoom, but it's like, man, if you just come for 2 days and we spend
Yeah,
2 days together, you leave and you have like now you have your podcast, like
yeah.
because you created it with us in those 2 days and then you took off and you made it happen.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, in the last what's funny is after I did that with you, I came back and it was just I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna do a prayer retreat and I'm just gonna invite those that I coach and then open it up to like, ladies at church." And it was small, but it was awesome because like it's this whole retreat thing, but it was live, it was in person, like they all left, like feeling like they had this really supernatural encounter with God and learning how to pray and be more effective. And you
Yeah.
just don't even real and part of me was like, I hope this is impactful, but it just I think the interaction, even like having dinners together is just
Yeah.
so huge for people.
Yeah. It's so fun and it's so needed because most
Yeah.
people don't get enough like
Yeah.
human interaction. Yeah, so I would say just do more of that. Like do like every quarter do something.
Yeah.
Because people will travel for you. They love
So
you.
how often do you kind of try to plan something live and in person once a quarter?
The impact partnership we do 3 times a year.
Okay, that's good.
And again, I keep them small, and that just makes it logistically so much easier.
Mhm.
France was like the cutoff of our logistics because we had 20 people in France. And so
Wow.
it was like we needed the conference room, we needed to cater the lunches in, we needed to get the train tickets, get everyone on the train, off the train to the castle. Like it was a lot. And thanks God we had my mom, Tara, Jenny, Tiffany, Tiffany's person. It was like 5 people that were like surrounding the 20. It was a lot. Um, it was so fun though. So I would start off small and that way you can just
Right.
pour into people and then if you want to make them bigger you can, but
Right.
I prefer smaller going deep.
Right.
That's what I
Was
like.
the 20, would you say that was small or more felt more on the large scale?
For France, it felt pretty big. I think we could have done away with catering lunches and had them go out and explore on their own, and we could have gotten rid of the trip to Angers on the train and everything like that. It just created more chaos, although it was so fun at taking them to the castles and it created great pictures in the castle. So you live and you learn, which is another thing I
Right.
talk about on the podcast episode of creating surveys after each event to see like what was your favorite
Uh,
part, what was your least favorite part, and then every time you do an event, you can make it better. And then I do a pre-event survey. So that way I can just make it more tailored to the people that are coming. So like what are the things you want to accomplish at the event? But then like little details of like how do you take your coffee? What kind of snacks do you like? Do you have any like allergy preferences? And that way like, oh, Lindsay eats gluten-free in France, we were able to find gluten-free bread for her. And then it's
wow.
just like that like special touch to let her know like we care about you and we want to make sure that you're taken care of.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. So that's awesome. So I love that. Now, do you do like when you do live, or I guess that's not a live event, but when you do Zooms and stuff like that, is that more like, would that be more trainings and stuff? Like when you go into a teaching or a Zoom or something like that, is that more like this is going to be teaching? It's not so much like we're all going to connect, or is it like even when you get all the people on Zoom, we're going to kind of, this is also a way to have human interaction?
You can do both. So
Okay.
like I've done like 3-day events over Zoom and when I do that, usually they're pretty big. So we've had like several hundred people attend those events, which is obviously too much for me to be able to support people at the level that I would want to. So then we bring in some of our coaches to come in and then we do breakout rooms. And that way they're
Okay.
still getting like personalized attention. So like there are ways you can facilitate that kind of feel with bigger groups and over Zoom, but then you need the team to make that happen. Um
Right.
but then it's also different because like not everyone's gonna have their camera on. There's some people that are like hiding. And it's not like we're like cozy on the couch drinking coffee. So it's just
Right.
like different vibe, you know?
Yeah.
But you also get more people on and less expenses related to it. So pros and cons. You can do both and
Right.
see what you like.
Oh, that's a good idea. Now, one other question that just came to mind. So I know, like you said, you don't do social media, but um do you do Facebook ads? I mean, do you do anything to kind of push it out, or is it more like word of mouth from people that where you kind of build your tribe? And I know you have Pin with Purpose, and so is how's that? How do you kind of market that? What are some things you do to market that? Or how, and I know you've had Pin with Purpose for a while. What
Yeah.
are some things you've seen and how you've changed, you know, in the last couple of years?
So we've done live launches for that program where like through a 5-day challenge, we've done evergreen webinars for that program, live webinars. And what we landed on for a while was doing the hybrid webinar, and doing that weekly with Facebook ad traffic.
Okay.
And that converted really, really well.
So
So the thing is, when you have something that converts, you just want to look at how can you increase it and amplify it, which ads is great to do. So in
right,
the beginning, you can use other people's audiences to bring traffic to your offer, your webinar, masterclass, training, whatever that is.
right,
But if you want to grow and expand, Facebook ads helps you do that quicker. Um, but you're spending money and it's a
right.
gamble and you don't know
Yeah,
like that's why I said like test it first with other people's audiences and then like you have training in your platform that shows you how to see your conversion rate.
Right.
And then I walk through like how to improve your conversion rate at each step of the process. Cause it really is kind of like you have to look here, 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 here. Cause you can't just be like, hey, I converted out like 10%. That's great. But you don't know where you had drop off, or so you
Right.
need to know your numbers really, really well before you start putting ad money on it. And that way,
Right.
if it's not converting at that level, you know exactly where to fix it. So you're not wasting money.
Right.
I don't want you to waste money.
I know. Yeah, let's you don't
That's
want
really
to
easy to do.
money.
And then the other thing is if you are going to do Facebook ads, get a credit card that does like 2 or 3x the ad spend. So we used the Amex Gold card for
Mhm.
Facebook ads, and that gave you the best points that I found for ad spend. Social media ad spend was the Amex Gold card.
Now, do you do your own Facebook ads or do you
No.
okay.
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. If you're spending a lot of money on Facebook ads, you want somebody that knows what they're doing.
Right.
So you either need to learn how to do it and do it yourself, or you need to hire somebody to do it for you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't think I wanna learn how to do that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. Now, do you have so I guess to do Facebook ads, you don't have to be active on Facebook.
No,
Okay.
that's the
Because
great
I
thing. The
was
ads do it all for you.
like gotcha. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. So anything and anything else that you have experienced or seen change or you see coming that, myself and others just kind of need to, be aware of, as we're getting ready to go into 2024, is it just more be consistent or are there other things to kind of be on the lookout for?
I would say just learn people really well. Learn people, learn what make like learn your people, your
Mhm.
ideal client. Like study your ideal client. And that could look like you surveying them, you having conversations with them, you doing market research with them. It doesn't necessarily matter what's happening worldwide or in the entire online marketing industry if it's not affecting your specific market.
Right.
And so I would just look at understanding your people and getting
Okay.
on the phone and doing market research and talking to and surveying as many of your people as you can. And that way, you know, what are their hopes? What are their dreams? What are their needs? What are their deepest desires? How do they like communication?
Right.
And that way, you can tailor everything that you're doing for them specifically, not for what online marketing is saying you should do.
Right. That's really good. That's really good because I haven't done too many surveys, especially with people that now let me ask you this. This just popped in my brain. So do you do it just with your clients or do you even go kind of outside, like maybe just followers, like you just send it out to everybody on your email list
We
or not?
do. Yeah, we have surveys go out to everybody, and that way we can segment people on our email list, and that way we can tailor our communication to them. And that way we're not sending like a specific offer to everybody if we know it's not going to serve people in this bucket, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Because
So that could be like after they register for your freebie or your webinar, you could have a quick like 3-question survey there.
right.
Yeah.
So do you even like when people come to your website, let's say they subscribe, with in part of your communication with them, would one of them possibly be a survey?
It could be. Yeah.
Okay. Like if you've got kind of a sequence that's getting ready to
And
go
then
out.
you could reward them and have a free training of like, hey, once you fill out this training, I'm going to give you access to X, Y, or fill out this survey. I'm going to give you access to this free training
Oh, okay.
just to incentivize them a little bit.
Right. That's a great idea.
And then if you ever bring on like a setter or somebody on your team that's going to do high ticket sales, it'll make their job easier because then they can go through and segment your audience based off of
Right.
the survey responses. So then they know who they should be reaching out to.
Okay. Now, at what point did you bring on a setter?
When we had so many leads that were coming in that I could not reach out to, they were buying our our low ticket offer, Pin with Purpose, but
Mhm.
they didn't know about Activate unless we had a specific event for it. And so it was
Gotcha.
like in between events, we had all these people that were like falling through the cracks.
Mm.
And I just thought about, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's all these people that we could help if we just brought
Right,
somebody on board that could take care of them.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great. So now I know we've got a few minutes left before our coaching call's over. So real, um, so I know like you're doing some big changes and, just revamping to more match your lifestyle and stuff like that. So do you still have a setter? Like, how are you, like, are you just mainly focusing on, more one-on-one coaching and Pin with Purpose? And then, so how are you kind of reorganizing in this new season?
That's a great question. I'm still seeking the Lord on what he wants me to do. I'm waiting on clarity and direction before I make like any huge
Right. Well, first
decision.
of all, that's encouraging because he
Yeah.
doesn't always give us the answer
No.
right.
You know
And
what? So let me tell you, when God told me to shut down Activate in either April or May of this year, and he goes, I'm not in this program, shut it down. I'm ministering at an event in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. So this was mid-November, like 6 months later or whatever. This guy comes up to me and he starts prophesying over me. And he goes, God's been having you lay things down in this season, and he's having you lay them down because it's been you building them in your own strength and not him. He's going to restore them and rebuild them, but it's going to be him instead of you. So be patient. And when
wow,
he was talking, I was just like crying, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Thank you, Jesus. Um, yeah, it's one of those things of I don't want to birth an Ishmael and
right,
put something out there. I could, like, I have enough marketing knowledge that I could put something out there and boom, create something that takes off. But I want this business to be 100% the Lord. I don't want it to be me.
right.
So I'm just going to be patient and see whatever the heck that looks like.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that. For me, it's super encouraging because I was in ministry for so long and now kind of being a little bit more, even, I did coaching in ministry, but more from a business perspective. I can definitely be like, have that feel less than
Yeah.
and like, oh, what are they doing? And oh, let me see what they're doing and what are they
Mm-hmm.
doing and what are they doing,
Mm-hmm.
and
Don't get sucked into that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know and even like for December, it was like I was working on something. I was actually getting the email ready, and God dropped in my spirit, take a chapter of Luke, like a chapter a day of Luke, and read it,
Mm.
and then write questions for it, and then like do a blog about it, put it out there, invite people to do it. And at first I was like, okay, God, but this, I'm putting stuff out there. And I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with weight loss with God. We're just reading a chapter of Luke a day. And then it's almost like the Holy Spirit laughed and he's like, Martha, one of your whole principles is you've got to be in the word to,
Yeah.
to hear weight loss with God. It doesn't have to be weight loss scriptures. Just get people in the word, even
Yeah.
if they're not in the program. So it was just funny how, yeah, when you do listen to the Holy Spirit, it's like, oh, okay, now I
Yep.
see how all that works together.
Yep. Oh, that's so good. Well, where can people connect with you, learn more about what you're doing?
So if they just go to marthafry.com, that's my website. And I've just got, you can get to everything from the website. The other thing is I have a podcast called Weight Loss with God.
Mm.
Not weight loss God's way, even though that, but it's weight loss with God. And it's really how to bring God into your weight loss journey and hear from him on, what does he want you to weigh? What does he want you to look like? How did he create your body? Not letting men and people, women, pictures, Pinterest, television tell you how you should be. God's already created you and he knows. So Weight Loss
So
with
good.
God is the podcast.
Okay, amazing. All right. Well, thanks for being on, and we'll make sure we'll put your stuff in the show notes so people can go check you out.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rachel. Love your wisdom.
Bye.